that he turn those individuals over? Will he do that? Treaty or not, the president could ask, even demand of Putin, that he turn those individuals over. Will he?
Are you really that fucking stupid? What show is this? John Carl show? Oh my God, is he a fucking moron or what? He's sitting there, demand Putin turn over these Russian spies? Yeah, you know what? The Democrats would shit themselves if these guys showed up and demanded discovery on everything that Mueller's doing. And I'm hoping that's what happens.
Do that.
You know, I think it's pretty silly for the president to demand something that he can't get legally. And this is a very serious matter. You know, the Russians take the position, you can like it or not like it, that their constitution forbids them to extradite Russian citizens. They have an agreement with the Europeans that looks a lot like an extradition treaty. Europeans have frequently tried to use that to get the Russians to extradite their nationals, and they flat out refuse to do it. So I think for the president to demand something that isn't going to happen.
Joining me right now to talk about all of the above, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. Mr. Chairman, it's always a pleasure to see you.
It's great to be here live. I'm not coming from California.
I know, I'm happy.
So different.
It's great that you're on set, so thank you very much. These Russian indictments, we could have known about them earlier this year when you actually came out with the report back in March, and then the findings released to the public at the end of April. I've got the report right in front of me. Your reaction to these indictments?
Well, we knew about this a year and a half ago. Almost everything in the indictment we knew about. In March 22nd, we released our findings that you have in front of you right there. Those findings were available March 22nd. If you remember, the media mocked us.
Yes, I do remember.
They made fun of the Republicans. They said it was a whitewash. The Democrats said it was a whitewash. Nearly everything the Democrats said about our report was that it was a whitewash. Then we had to fight with the intelligence agencies and the Department of Justice so that they would not redact and they would declassify our report. That was finished in April. So this entire report that you have in front of you, including all you had to do was get to page 4, and you only had to read chapter 2, and you would have had nearly everything that's in the indictment.
It's pretty incredible. Look at all these redactions that you can actually see on the screen.
And it's page after page of that. And actually, there's more in this report than what's in the indictment. Okay, and this is what's very frustrating. So it's great that they indicted Russians. Yes, they did bad things. I mean, they're always up to bad things. We know that. They have very sophisticated intelligence capabilities in Russia. And they're constantly attacking the United States and our allies. However, in the indictment, they leave out some really important people that they also went after. So the indictment plays like they were only going after the Democrats, when Bob Mueller and all his investigators and his lawyers know for a fact that they also targeted Republicans. Why is that not in the indictment? It makes the indictment look ridiculous.
Senator Kamala Harris claimed that President Trump nominating a new justice to the Supreme Court in the wake of Anthony Kennedy's retirement means we're looking at the destruction of the Constitution. Yes, she claimed we are looking at the destruction of the Constitution. Harris, considered a potential opponent to Trump in the 2020 presidential election, fear-mongered while she said on MSNBC that Trump has consistently nominated ideologues to lifetime appointments on other federal courts. In other words, she says people who actually believe in the Constitution. We cannot relent, she said. We have to fight till the end, opposing anyone Trump chooses for the Supreme Court, especially the most qualified and the ones that believe in truth, justice, and the Constitution. Trump cited a list of about 25 jurists that he may choose from who are largely considered either textualists or strict constructionists when it comes to making constitutional judgments. The president met with three key Democrats from states he won in 2016 to discuss the court vacancy. Senators Joe Donnelly of Indiana, Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, and Joe Manchin III of West Virginia met with the president, as the two liberal Republican senators, Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Collins has previously voiced concern over the court potentially reversing Roe v. Wade, which made abortion legal nationwide.
Ladies and gentlemen from Texas, Mr. Gohmert for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Deputy Attorney General, a common theme, it seems, to many of your responses has been basically, gee, I wasn't here then, that wasn't me, I didn't personally do that, I didn't redact Judge Contreras' name from the documents so Congress couldn't see that he was friends with Peter Strzok, that was someone else. But you have added quite pointedly to Mr. Jordan that I am the Deputy Attorney General, and you certainly are. But the actions of your subordinates, which are all employees of the Department of Justice, aren't you vouching for those? Don't those people respond to you?
Those people all ultimately report to me, yes, sir.
And that would include when Bruce Orr's office was directly next to yours, I believe. Isn't that correct? And he worked for you?
He worked in the Deputy Attorney General's office. I think it was a couple of doors down, but yes.
Okay, a couple of doors down. Well, we're aware of some of the events that occurred before your confirmation as the Deputy Attorney General. However, some of your team members certainly were involved. So I want to ask, was Tashina Gahar, your deputy, or Tricia Anderson involved in any stage of drafting, editing, approving the 4 FISA applications to spy on Carter Page?
I wasn't sure if you were directing that question to me, but Congressman, sitting here right now, I don't know exactly who was involved in drafting what FISA application.
So, just to be clear, apparently, Director Wray, you have to answer for the Deputy Attorney General about FISA applications he signed?
Oh, no, you were asking about...
Yeah, the 4 applications to spy on Carter Page. And I think you've been a bit vague on whether you even signed
No, sir.
FISA.
Let me try to clarify for you, if I may.
Well, did you sign the 4th FISA application?
I approved the filing of a...
Okay, now you say you approved that application. Now, that's going before a FISA.
That's my job, sir.
That's your job, okay. You approved it. Well, when you approve a FISA application, in your mind, does that mean you should read it and understand what's part of it?
You should certainly understand what's part of it, sir.
But that, you're parsing words, so that doesn't mean you need to read it, in your opinion. Is that correct?
Depends on the circumstances, sir, and...
Well, telling you, being a former felony state judge,
yes.
If I had somebody like you come before me, and now it was revealed later that the guy that signed and approved an application for a warrant had not even read the application that would allow spying on somebody, I would look at everything he signed from then on with a jaundiced eye. And I'm telling you, I was a little concerned about
even... to explain, sir?
Well, you have. You've said...
No, I have not.
Approve it. Well,
I did approve it.
I didn't ask that question because you said you approved it, but you took out the words that you read it. And so it is my time.
Texas will suspend. I just want to make it clear to the Deputy Attorney General that you will be afforded the full opportunity to respond once his time has expired. If he wants to yield to you during that.
My time continued to run while the chairman took up some of my time. So
you'll have that.
And actually, I was being interrupted. I did not have a question. I was taking the words that the Deputy Attorney General himself said. So, well, let me ask you about this. You said earlier Bruce Orr was not working on the Russia investigation. Let me ask you, here's
my knowledge.
To your knowledge, did you not know that Bruce Orr was meeting with Christopher Steele, getting information about the dossier and supplying that information to the FBI at the same time his wife Nellie was working for Fusion GPS that was helping Hillary Clinton? Did you not know he was doing that for the FBI?
Right.
You did not know that? Okay.
Shit.
So he officed a couple of doors down, but you had no idea that he was actually the go-between to get that information. So when did you find out about that?
So as I said, sir, the Inspector General is reviewing these files, and I hope I have an opportunity to explain.
Well, let me just say, you look at the deputy, look at the summary. Mr. Horowitz said we did not have confidence that Strzok's decision to prioritize Russia investigation over following up on the mid-year related investigation discovered on the Wiener laptop was free from bias. Pretty clear to most of us, his bias did affect that decision, and the
time of the gentleman has expired. The Deputy Attorney General may respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I thought you were asking me questions, sir. I completely understand your concern. And this...
Don't placate him, you fucking sorry piece of shit.
If he finds some problem with it, I'll respect that. Now, we don't talk about FISAs. It's illegal for us to talk about FISAs. In this particular example, as a result of the Intelligence Committee, certain information was declassified, and so I'm comfortable talking about that. You have to understand in context, sir, that the department had made the decision to disclose the existence of a FISA to the House and Senate before I got there. Now, what I signed was what's called a renewal application. It had already been approved 3 different times by a federal judge. It was signed under oath by an FBI agent who attested that it was true and correct. Now, if he was wrong, we'll hold him accountable. But let's allow the process to conclude before we jump to conclusions about that. Because I assure you, sir, I'll be just as offended as you if I find there was some incorrect information in that application.
Well, Mr. Chairman, since we've learned that he relies heavily on people that were part of his team to do these applications, I don't think we can get to the truth until we question Tashina Gahar and Tricia Anderson, and that would also include why she slow walks the notices of NSC meetings to the Attorney General when she's working for the DAG just to make him look bad. So we need to get those 2 people in here and question them.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond, if there's any evidence of wrongdoing, sir, by anyone on my staff or anyone in the department, I would expect you to give them fair process, bring the information to my attention or the Inspector General's attention. Let's hear both sides and then let's reach the conclusion. I think what's important to understand, and I understand the FISA process is very obscure to most people, but these are essentially search warrant affidavits. A federal agent has to swear under oath that everything in that application is true, and then there are review processes within the FBI, within the department, and ultimately the decision is made by a federal judge. There can be mistakes. We'll find out if there are any mistakes in this one, but it's not a matter of just slapping a document and signing it. It's a very thorough process, and in that particular case, 4 different federal judges found probable cause. The Inspector General will review it, and I'll await those conclusions, sir, but I just would encourage you not to jump to any conclusions that I or anybody else did anything wrong until we have all the information.
The first gentleman from New York is the correct mission.
Mr. Chairman, earlier I referenced a January 27, 2000 letter to John Linder, who was...
Well, I think the credibility of that whole thing, I think it is shot. The fact of the matter...
This is DeSantis talking right now.
When you have Bruce Orr acting as like a political operative in the Justice Department, feeding opposition research to people like Strzok and the FBI, and they're launching a counterintelligence investigation, and obviously they puffed it up past the election and all into the special counsel. That is really unprecedented. It was an abuse of the surveillance powers and the counterintelligence powers of the government. And look, Lisa Page is now going to come tomorrow, or she's going to be holding it, but I think she actually is going to show up. So she's going to have to answer questions as well. And I think we're finally starting to make progress on this thing. But one thing we do have to do, Lou, you and I have talked about it, if we don't get those documents from Rosenstein, we've got to hold them in contempt. And we just got to do it. We can do the articles of impeachment, but unless that's hanging out over there, I think they're going to continue to stall on some of this stuff. And we have some momentum going now. We got to keep it up.
In today's hearings on Capitol Hill, Congressman Ron DeSantis pressing anti-Trump agent Peter Strzok over the discredited so-called dossier and the origin of the phony Russia probe. Strzok refused to directly answer whether crooked Hillary Clinton and the DNC actually funded that fake dossier.
The dossier was not part of it, so that's important. When did you learn the dossier was funded by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party?
I don't think that's an accurate representation, and the department or the FBI has directed me not to answer that question based on ongoing
right. So Hillary, DNC sent to Perkins Coie, who sent to Fusion, who paid, I mean, come on.
Again,
it was a political document, correct?
The latter's close. I cannot comment. The FBI has directed me to not answer that question.
Would it be fair to say that the dossier, what would you choose? Is it a political document, opposition research, or is it legitimate intelligence?
Sir, I would very much like to answer that question.
Okay.
I have been directed by the FBI that I may not get into that based on operational requirements or equities.
Congressman Ron DeSantis joins us now. Congressman, that was quite a hearing, and I have to say, you all, you Republicans acquitted yourselves extraordinarily well. You, in questioning him closely, producing the groundwork for what became the answer that he gave Congressman Jordan, which is talking about the dossier and finally getting permission, apparently, from the FBI to tell the truth for once.
Yeah, look, Lou, I mean, I think that Peter Strzok came across as very smug, very arrogant, and a lot of his explanations for his text messages, as the Inspector General had said too, are just not credible. When he says, oh, what I really meant by saying we'll stop Trump from being elected, I just meant the American people won't vote for him. Bull. So he was giving these explanations and doing it in a very haughty tone, but I gotta tell you, he was upstaged by the behavior of the Democrats. I mean, you actually had a Democrat say that because Strzok was testifying and we were asking him hard questions, that he deserved a Purple Heart. I mean, how absurd can you be to suggest something like that?
Well, the Dems were trying to out-absurd one another throughout that hearing, as I'm sure you were frustrated by their conduct, their behavior, their language. I mean, obstructing, stalling, trying to actually stop Strzok from saying anything.
Exactly.
Unfortunately for them, it didn't work out that way.
Well, they're running, I've never seen them run interference for somebody like they did. Anytime he was getting questioned and really put, they would try to jump in and interrupt. And it's strange because you've been saying that there's this Trump-Russia collusion. So if that were true, wouldn't you want Strzok to be answering questions? Instead, they realize that this whole thing with his bias and how it started, they realize they don't want the answers to those questions. And so I think that's why you saw them behave the way they did. I thought it was disgraceful.
Their conduct, absolutely disgraceful, and producing the testimony of Strzok that indeed John McCain had passed over very similar material to the fake dossier to the FBI, that Bruce Orr and his wife Nellie, working for Fusion GPS, had been part of the conduit for that material to go into the FBI. These are extraordinary developments, and tonight we're asking the question, our evening question is very simply, is this the beginning of the end of the special counsel? Because this is obviously an FBI that is rife with corruption and bias that turned into an absolute assault of subversion against the President of the United States.
A lot of people would find it hard to believe that the man who just said that tweeted very recently, it's a total hoax. It's a taxpayer charade.
Oh, I think that looking into me and the campaign, look, I have nothing to do. This was set up by the Democrats. There is no collusion between me and my campaign and the Russians. The other thing is the Russians did not affect the vote, and everybody seems to think that.
There is an investigation underway, though, an FBI investigation. Is that a charade?
Well, I don't know if it's an FBI or if it's, there's so many investigations. I don't know if it's an FBI investigation or if it's a Congress, if it's the Senate.
Well, James Comey testified there was an FBI investigation.
Yeah, but I think they're also helping the House and the Senate. So you probably have FBI, but you have House, you have Senate. They have other investigations.
But when you put out tweets, it's a total hoax, it's a taxpayer charade, and you're looking for a new FBI director, are you not sending that person a message to lay off?
No, I'm not doing that. I think that we have to get back to work, but I want to find out, I want to get to the bottom. If Russia hacked, if Russia did anything having to do with our election, I want to know about it.
Well, there's already intelligence from virtually every intelligence agency that, yes, that happened.
I'll tell you.
That's a lie. We found out 17 of those agencies was bullshit. Turned out to be 4. Turned out to be James Clapper, James Brennan, FBI James Comey, and who was the other one? Oh, what was it? NSA? It was 4 agencies, not 17 agencies. So we know that was shit. And that came out. Now what, fucking ballhead?
If Russia or anybody else is trying to interfere with our elections, I think it's a horrible thing, and I want to get to the bottom of it.
Democrats were calling on the president to cancel the summit. We also heard from Senator John McCain, who said if President Trump is not prepared to hold Putin accountable, the summit in Helsinki should not move forward.
John McCain. Typical John McCain. He was reaching for that brass ring of being the United States president so badly that he was willing to betray his own party's nominee, which is Trump, that he was willing to give the FBI this fake dossier, because there's what, like 3 or 4 different copies of it. He was willing to vote down the repeal of Obamacare. He was the lone vote on that killed the Obamacare repeal. So you can thank John McCain for that. The man is an absolute walking, talking tragedy. He's dying of cancer. You know, it's in his brain. And he's, you know, for somebody whose brain is supposedly cancer-ridden, and I know for a fact I do chemo, and my brain isn't what it should be because of the chemo. This guy hasn't been in Washington in 10 months, and he is still collecting a paycheck. He is still getting the benefits of being a senator, and he won't step down. That is just uncalled for. 10 months of absenteeism. What job in the world could you be gone for 10 months and still get paid for?
Obviously, the summit is moving forward, but will the president hold Putin accountable? And I don't mean just ask him if he did it or if the Russians did it.
It's the first time he's meeting Putin in person on a one-on-one talk, Mr. John Carl. Are you really this fucking stupid? That is probably one of the most stupid questions. Go over there and give Putin a bloody nose is what he's saying. And that ain't how shit works. If you think you can do a better job, then you need to run for president.
Is he actually going to confront President Putin with the evidence that it was Russian?
Trump is not a fucking lawyer, you asswipe. What's he supposed to do? Go over there, well, you did this and this and this and this and this, and here's the evidence of it. Putin's going to look at him and say, who are you?
Interference, Russian government interference with our election.
Well, look, you have 2 indictments by the Justice Department already. I think the Russians are well aware of that. How this conversation is going to go, I think, will be determined by the 2 parties. We have asked, and the Russians have agreed, that it will be basically unstructured. We're not looking for concrete deliverables here. I think it's very important that the president have a direct one-on-one conversation with President Putin. That's how this is going to start off. And I might say that every European leader that we've met with on this trip, including most recently on Friday, Prime Minister Theresa May of the United Kingdom, has said they support this meeting going forward. The British have significant concerns about the Russian use of a chemical agent against people here in Great Britain, and as they pointed out, that constitutes a chemical weapons attack against the nuclear power. Prime Minister May was very strong in her conversation with the president about that, and I'm sure the president has that in mind as well. There are going to be a lot of very difficult issues on the agenda here with President Putin, and I think President Trump is prepared to raise all of them.
California Congressman Darrell Issa, a member of the House Judiciary Oversight and Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us.
Well, it's good to see you, and if I may, you know, President Trump, in a sense, did the equivalent of 25 plus years ago, Margaret Thatcher saying to George Herbert Walker Bush, "Don't go wobbly, George." I think there's a lot to be said in that previous segment about the president saying to our closest and strongest ally that we want to be close on trade, not just on defense, and You know, it's a lot easier to be close with Britain when they do put money into defense than with Europe, where they're a little too stingy on supporting NATO.
Yeah, so you were comfortable then with the comments?
Well, I'm always comfortable with sending a message that opens a dialogue, and I think that's what the president's very good at, is he's going to have a very candid debate about what it takes for the United States and Britain to get much closer together, including a trade relationship that should be mutually beneficial to two very large trading partners.